All right, guys, welcome to the show. Marc Rasmussen, and Marc is a longtime friend and colleague. He is the broker of Corcoran Dwellings, downtown Sarasota. So we're excited to talk to Marc about the market.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so our channel is more about our perspective because we're always on it, but we like to have someone outside of Coldwell Banker.
Sure.
And you've been in the business a really long time, and I think people want and need to hear from you because you're a seasoned veteran.
You're always asking me to do video, and I've always tried to fly under the radar. I'm not one for video. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's awesome, but thanks for allowing me. Thanks for inviting me to do this. I'm not sure why I agreed to do this, but anyway, I promised you I would, so I'm here. So as far as the market goes, it's a pretty challenging market. I mean, if you think about it, we had the rates go down to 2 and 3%, which locked a lot of people into their house.
Right. Yep.
And now we've never seen a rate increase this quickly before, up to we're darn near's 8%, right?
Yep.
So depending on who you listen to, the people, there's about 37 or 42% of the people in the country have no mortgage, which sounds high to me.
It does sound high.
That sounds really high.
But I've researched it last week because I had this conversation with a mortgage person, and it's somewhere in that neck of the woods apparently.
Wow.
And of the people that do have a mortgage, a huge percentage of them are below 5%. Right. So you have a whole bunch of people out there that don't have a burning desire to sell.
That
right?
free money. That free money.
Yeah. So they don't have a burning desire to sell. So there's not this panic selling like we saw back in the last crash.
Right.
Right.
And then you've got the other side of the coin is you have a bunch of people out there that may want to buy, like Camila, my office manager, wants to buy a place.
Okay.
But it's really hard because the prices are so high. Interest rates are so high. So
what she wanted to buy last year is now a lesser property or lesser.
Affordability is we've just blown right through affordability. So it's a very challenging market in that respect. You don't have a lot of desperate sellers out there dropping their price.
Right.
So that's why prices aren't really dropping so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a bunch of buyers out there that aren't, that want to buy but just aren't. They can't.
Right.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
What do you think is going to happen next year? You wanted to say something?
Well, I have my opinion. My opinion is, look, right now, yes, prices are high. But if rates come down, we're gonna come roaring back with these prices. The prices are gonna come skyrocketing back. And I put a property under contract on Friday evening, down towards more towards Gulf Gate area, a little bit further south than that. But they're financing the property, and I said to him, look, now's the time to get in, and then when the rates come down, you just refinance and bring your mortgage out. Because if you wait another year, and she's been in the market for about a year now. If the rates come down, that little amount of money that you're paying additional is going to be minimal compared to that increase in the price. If the prices go up $100,000,
I agree with you. There's going to be a tremendous amount of demand for all the people that are waiting for or interest rates to come down.
Sure.
But what if interest rates don't come down?
Well, I don't think they're certainly not coming down to 3.5 or 4%,
right.
or 3%. I think that they're going to come down to 4 to 5, 5.5, which is normal.
What do you think?
4.5 to 5.5% is normal.
You don't think they'll come?
Well, if they keep printing money, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's that's a tough one. I'm not going to try to speculate on where interest rates are going, but I could see 5-6%.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think you're being generous with that number.
5 might be too low. I think 6. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows, right?
Right.
They were saying last year when we got to 7, they're going to come back to 5. Now we're up to 8.
Right.
We may not go back. So something's got to give.
Right.
Something's got to give. So if it's not interest rates, then it's probably price.
Right.
But what's going to cause people to drastically reduce their price? There's not going to be a massive
sitting on the market.
That's the only way.
It.
The only way.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see like before where the banks where we had this big foreclosure boom.
Right.
Because people were handed back the keys. They couldn't
Too
afford
much
the house.
Right.
Too much equity.
There's too much equity, so they're
Right.
just going to be like, there's not going to be a mass. I don't think there's going to be a massive dump. I just don't.
Either.
Especially in Florida.
No, we have what, 1,000, 1,200 people a day moving to Florida.
There's a lot of demand. Yeah.
And we have it. I talked to my friends in Chicago and I talked to friends around the country, and they're like, "Gosh, we've had huge corrections in our market here."
Yeah.
We really haven't.
We haven't.
No.
In that under $1 million range, there's been a little bit of a correction, but not much. I mean,
yeah, there's a little bit of price drop, just slightly, and
Right.
but nothing noticeable. And I think there's always going to be people that want to come and buy vacation homes in Florida.
Sure.
And that keeps us
going.
Keeps us busy.
Well, now you have an office in St. Pete as well, and so you know that market. I don't see it.
I do.
You know that market a little bit.
Yeah.
I really don't. What is that market scene versus Sarasota? Are they
it's actually busier than Sarasota.
Oh wow.
It is.
Why is that?
Well, you got to remember, we're more of a vacation home market.
Right.
Okay.
They have vacation homes up there, but it's also more end user, full-time primary residence.
What about rental properties? Do you guys deal much in that?
We don't handle rentals?
No, I mean, like, do you sell to a lot of people?
Yeah,
that end up
sure. Yeah, there's we get people that obviously buy, they want to do the
Airbnb,
like you did. Yeah. How's that going, by the way?
It's going great.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to hear. I hear horror stories about people wanting to hand their Airbnb back in. They want to. They want to get rid of their Airbnb.
I had one in Chicago.
Yeah,
I have a horror story from it.
Oh gosh!
But in the end, we ended up doing well with it. But I had some people book on a stolen credit card and come in and just break through storage units and spray wine all over the walls and ceilings, and
that's property management for you.
Yeah. And so I mean, look, I always tell people, like, you have to check people in.
What did you do wrong, Andrew?
Yeah,
we were in Bali and remote checked them in. Yeah, we learned the lesson.
Rough life. He was in Bali. and he's remote checking in people into his Airbnb.
But it did go well.
Now you know why everyone wants to get into real estate.
Well, right. Now, in the end, though, even after that, we continued to do it, and we were doing, on a property that was worth about $650,000, and we were doing about $12,000 a month in revenue on the place. So it was really good.
Wow.
In the summer, in the winter, nobody wanted.
No one wants to go to Chicago.
Nobody wanted to.
I lived in Chicago. I know.
Yeah, it was awful. It was so bad in the winter. So, I mean, we were lucky to break even on the mortgage, and then in the summers, we did really, really well. So yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Okay, go.
Sure.
So you guys are doing well. Congratulations. As far as I'm going to take over this interview. So as far as new people getting in the business, because we have a whole bunch of new people in the business. I don't know a lot. I mean, you and I have been doing this really. How long have you been doing this?
About 3 years now.
Oh, that's all.
He was the rookie.
You're very good.
I was rookie of the year for the state of Florida for my first year, though.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Okay, so we have older, we've been doing this a long time.
And I'm newer.
A lot older.
Yeah, 21 years. Yeah.
And then newer. Yeah. So for everyone out there that's kind of new in the business, what do you recommend? I'll give you my answer, but what do you recommend the newer guys, the newer people do to build their business?
Well, do you want to start because you are?
Yeah. So when I started out, I was the guy that I was coming out of. I was the COO of a large company. I shouldn't say large in the nursing home business. It wasn't large. We did about $70 million a month in revenue. So it's a decent sized company.
Pretty big, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but in the nursing home world, that's like low, small to medium size or whatever. But we, so I had some experience, but I didn't, and I'd done a lot in real estate personally. But I sort of tell everybody, pick one thing that you find that you're good at, and do that every day consistently as much as you can. So in our office is right there on St. Armand. So I took desk. And it was free advertising. I got out there, but I was the guy who would take all the desk shifts that anybody would give up. So I was doing 25, 30 sets of desks a month.
Wow.
I would try to get the 6 to 9 shift because on St. Armand's, people would be open later. I would stay until 11 or 12 o'clock at night and just stay open.
Mm-hmm.
So I love telling the story. My first deal was $440,000.
Mm-hmm.
My second deal was $8.75 million.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So then I had a big start, and then,
so you needed a lead supply. You needed to supply leads coming in. So you, Floor Time provided those leads.
Those leads without me having to go out and do thousands of dollars in mailers or a ton of advertising. It was free.
Buy leads, advertising, website, direct mail.
And I tried all of the cold calling FSBOs and cold calling expired and canceled listings, and it just wasn't. It wasn't my thing. And, I was using the same software that everybody else was using. And by the time I'm calling them, they've been called 40 times that day. And they're already angry. So I kind of picked up on hey, look, I'm very comfortable talking to people that I don't know. So quickly, I picked up my first year. I did 11.5 million off the desk.
That's a
Nice.
good,
Yep.
good
That's
year
Plus
for
another-
Off the desk.
Just off the
Okay.
desk, and then another 10 million on my own.
Okay.
So I did about 21 million
That's
the
awesome.
first year in the business. So I kind of tell people, like, you know, and maybe you're not good at desk. Maybe you're good at cold calling, or you find that thing you're good at and just make sure you're committed and you're doing as many hours as you can in that. And that's what I did.
Throw everything at the wall, see what sticks.
And then go with it and be consistent with whatever you're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, man. Good
I
job.
was going to
Hey,
say,
Yeah.
what about you, Shayla?
I was going to say exactly my lead in was pick one or two things that you're no matter what, do or die,
We're doing
sick or not.
You're very consistent. You work a very consistent day.
Yeah.
Right.
I know, because you time block stuff for
Yep.
prospecting.
Yeah.
You name it. So you're not one of these people who are like, hey, I got into the business and I want to make a lot of money. I'm going to hit
Who
the beach on
doesn't?
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I'm going to go, you know, I'm
You
not.
ain't seeing me on social media doing that. No,
Yeah.
no.
So you're very consistent.
Yeah,
Right? And
I would say a good place for someone brand new to start, if you're listening, the biggest things are you usually don't have a lot of money. And so do the things that are cost effective and
open houses.
and free.
Open houses.
Yep.
Open houses, be friendly with all the agents in your office, I would say. Rub shoulders with them, because I think being in the environment, there's only so much you can do from home. This whole work at home thing is, throw that out the window. I think there's a time and a place you can do that, and I've got that kind of down, and we are able to do that because we're seasoned. We still do the hard work, but there's a time and place for that. I think that's great at times, but really you need to be in the office around that energy, learning from the oldies like us, and we're learning from the people that are older than us too.
Yeah.
So
and from the young guys, the young people too. I mean, we're sitting here. I created this. Well, Camila created this room.
Yeah.
And we got to pick up new stuff. You can't. There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese, and I won't bore you with the details, but you really have to continue to evolve because the change.
Yep.
Have you read that book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So
you have to change. And I think also, like, we've learned, I've tried a bunch of things, and I mean, one of them, I paid a CRM to do my Facebook and Google leads, and then it feeds into my CRM. That was $2,000 a month, and I poured hours and hours and hours into it, and it just didn't work.
Right, but it doesn't mean it won't work for someone else.
No, and absolutely, and they, you know, with different skill sets, you know, we do a bunch of things that people have tried to go out and do the same thing.
Yeah.
If it's not the same personality, the same
Exactly.
skill set, it's not necessarily going to work.
You have to fit with you. Like I hated when I first got in this business. I hated because everyone was a realtor in this town.
Right.
Everyone. I was like, everyone was a realtor. I was
Right.
like, how do I meet people that don't know a realtor? So I was like, okay, maybe the internet was just kind of kicking on. And I was like, maybe I'll build a website.
He's got one of the best.
Okay.
websites.
So I created a website
Okay.
back in like 03, 04, whatever. And then I just worked my ass off.
Right.
And I started to,
There's no way around hard work.
Oh, anyone that's just getting into this business, or even if you've been in a long time, you have to work hard. There's no other way. There's just no, to be successful.
And consistent and dedicated.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what is, if you had to pick one or two things that you would suggest, because you are the broker owner and you recruit and you have agents calling you to come.
Right.
What is your outline or suggestion of maybe the top two things to do? Because
for a new agent or for any agent?
Well,
I would say, well, you have to treat this like a business. This is not 100%. A part-time.
No.
Well, you can make it part-time, but if you want to make a good income, an above average realtor income,
right,
you have to treat this like a business. And people get in this, and I did too. I was guilty of it. I was like, I don't want a job. I want to work for myself.
Yeah.
But you end up working way more than a normal job, especially when you're first starting out.
This is an 80-hour-a-week job.
Easily.
If you want to make a lot of money. Now, if you want to pull down, I don't know, $30,000 a year, whatever, you can do that and not work that hard, I guess.
You can make one sale and pull that.
Yeah. So I would say treat this like a business and be very disciplined about your day, about your week, about your month, that you are very, you're the best example, very consistent about,
everything.
And
you have to have a lead source.
Right.
You have to have a lead source.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because everybody says that, but what does that mean?
Well, everyone uses social media.
Okay.
Right.
Because it's funny. When I interview an agent, I'll say, "So, what's your business plan? How are you going to get customers?"
They look like a deer in headlights.
They go, They just look and they go, and I'm not making fun of anyone.
Scratch
I'm not
your
making fun of
head.
anyone. They just go,
Most people get again.
they'll go,
Exactly.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna post some stuff on social media, and
No, nobody's
I'm like,
gonna call
everyone's
you.
doing that. Who's
Right.
gonna call you from that? Every realtor in town's doing
Right.
that, right? Because
Right.
it's free.
Right.
Other than your time, it's
Right.
free.
Slow line fruit.
Yeah, and it works. It can work. It can work.
It can.
It can.
I
You
think
have to be out there.
I think it's more branding.
Yes,
when
exactly.
When you do social
Brand awareness.
media, it's
Yeah.
low line, easy to do, low lying fruit. That's brand awareness, but you have to be doing all the other things that you're talking about.
Everything else.
Yeah.
I think you have to attack from a bunch of different angles. You got to throw a lot of stuff
Especially
at the wall.
now.
Yeah, and you have to do like what you said. What fits your personality?
What fits your personality?
fight it,
I
yeah.
find also that like we've been really big on now. I'm not paying for leads ever again. If I have to pay money for a lead, I'm not doing it because
Well, you pay for leads whether you shell out money or
Or
time.
It's more
gas.
time.
You still
I'll give
pay.
time. I'll
You still
give
pay.
time. I
Yeah,
have no
but your
problem with
time is just as valuable as money.
100%. And we're finding that the things that we're not paying money out for
Mhm.
are producing way better.
There you go. Yeah.
We had one day, I love telling this story. We had one day we went door knocking. We got
Mhm.
$3.5 million in listings.
That's crazy.
In an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, again, that's
Now, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
So you door knocked, around a listing of yours?
usually it's around a listing of
Okay.
and that particular time. So I had sold a property in the neighborhood. We had gotten a listing in the neighborhood, and we just started hitting every single
Okay, so
house
you
on
had
it.
an in. You're knocking on the door, and you say,
And we don't always have it in though.
No.
you know, okay, so let's start with the end. So you
Okay.
knock on the door and you say, I'm Andrew, Coldwell Banker. I just
listed
sold the
property.
place. I just listed. Okay.
Just listed. We have an open house on Saturday and Sunday coming up.
Okay.
Wondered if you guys would like to come out to the open house.
Okay.
My goal
Did you guys
is
learn something? How much
Yeah.
did you guys get? $3.5 million?
$3.5 million.
There you go.
So
Nice.
my goal is to get them into my open house.
Mm,
Not trying to sell them that house.
Okay.
I'm just trying to build a
Oh,
rapport
they'll
with them.
be
Yeah.
cool.
sure.
I'm trying to build the rapport with them. Once they come to the open house, once it's sold, I go back and door knock again. Hey, just want to let you know we sold it roughly around this price point. At that point, you've already proven that you
Yeah, you know what you're doing. Yeah, yeah.
And if they're thinking about selling, then the wheels are already turning. Even if they're not, what we've learned is people will tell on their neighbors in a second. And so if you ask, we never ask them, are you looking to sell? We always ask, are your neighbors looking to sell?
Yeah.
And they'll tell them their neighbors in a second.
They're-
Right.
In a second.
It's more of like a hands-off approach. It's less in your face a little bit. And
Right.
we actually learned that tip from
A broker.
a broker that we knocked on the
Yeah,
door.
I've heard that on, I
and
think it was somewhere.
It was great advice.
Yeah.
Because it's less like in your face and it's
It's
less
not,
like
I'm not, it's,
asking you
hey,
for
what about your
anything.
friends? Is anyone
Yeah.
you want to buy or sell? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Turns out he says he's gonna list with us.
He's gonna list with us,
That
yeah.
same
Good.
person.
Good.
So-
So here's an interesting, I don't know if it's an interesting observation. Every lead requires some nurturing.
100%.
Correct.
100%.
So you knocked on the door, whether you get the lead from Zillow,
Right.
a website, your church, whatever, it requires some time before they transact.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 5 years.
Right.
5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I would say to agents. Like, we provide leads to our agents, and sometimes I'll give leads to agents, and they'll say, "Well, they're not ready." I'm like, "Well, what lead source is ready right now?"
None.
Almost none.
None.
The closest I can see would be like maybe a Zillow when they're driving around.
Right.
Right.
They're driving around and they say, "I want to see this house."
Right.
But in that instance, you're just a showing agent.
Right.
You're just like, "Hey, let me in the door." That's
Right.
essentially what you're doing.
Right.
You know, you have to build rapport with that client.
100%.
But so I guess another thing that would be for newer agents would be like, there is a nurturing time for any lead source.
Mhm.
In your
100%.
case, door knocking, it wasn't very long.
It wasn't very long. Well, but I had put some time
but
in. So,
we've gone to the same door in several cases many times.
so I had
Yeah.
already door knocked all of those houses when I got the first listing.
Mm-hmm.
I door knocked it for the open houses.
Okay.
I door knocked it when it sold. When we got the other listing. So these people had not only seen me, but they're driving by my sign over and over
Yeah.
again.
So it's like a farming technique.
100%.
Farming. I'm
Yeah.
a huge believer in farming.
Yeah, yeah, and so we just over time we built it up. Admittedly, some of the houses in the neighborhood that we thought were going to list with us didn't, but we really did well in
That's-
that neighborhood.
That
Yes,
happens with
that
everything,
happens
you know.
Right, right.
And that's another thing. You got to have thick skin in this
100%.
business. Because if you get really like, they didn't choose
My
me,
feelings
it's
are
like
hurt.
dating. It's like, you know, you
It's
get.
not fun to not
No,
have
it's like being
No.
broken up with. It's like you just like, oh,
But they
you
might
know.
come around. Like
Right.
one of the listings that we thought we were going to get in that neighborhood, they listed with another agent for what I think is about 400 grand
It's
too high, and they're not moving the
They're
price.
not selling.
And so my guess
So they just bought the listing.
Yeah, they bought the listing by saying, well, what do you want to list it at? Well, we want, X amount of dollars. So we always sort of take the approach of they may come back. They may come back.
Oh, you're making them back. Yeah, you're making them back.
And you never want to close a door on somebody because you never know what'll happen. I personally, I know you agree. I don't mind being the second or the third listing agent because
prefer almost sometimes.
Right.
The sellers make it worn down.
Right.
And they've heard all the feedback and they know that it's priced high and maybe it just takes a repositioning. And I'm happy to be that second or third agent.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think what's important too that I'm gleaning out of this is that you're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's not just, and the listings and the sales that we've gotten are not just from one thing. And I've probably already been marketing to that area.
Yeah.
Or we also call, we do warm calling or mail them thank you notes. Like we do, if we have a conversation with someone, I always mail a thank you note. And I think it's just, and I know, like I said, you agree that it's just, there's a lot of things like we talked about from the beginning of the conversation here that have to be done. And it's, people need to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
So I think the social media piece is like, it just reinforces it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Shayla, she's in Sarasota about, I've seen a million other, Instagram stories today, but Shayla just popped up and it's like, oh yeah, I'll call her. Are you
guys doing like geo-targeting, geofencing, any of that stuff?
Yes.
You are.
I do more.
We do more through our listing service. So like if we list something, that's one part of the packages that we list with.
Right.
But are we doing it specifically for just our advertising? I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
Would you say you're also, there's some success that you guys had because you have great market knowledge? If you just 100%. Go into, if I put you in Orlando and said, "Hey, door knock," you're going to be like, "I don't know this market.
I don't know this
I can't talk. I can't talk intelligently about this market. I can figure it out."
I mean, I'm one of those guys who's like lived all over Florida. So like I would go right to Thornton Park in Orlando. In St. Pete, I would go right to like.
Did you live in St. Pete?
I lived in Tampa, but I had, my best friend had a place in Tierra Verde. And he had a place over in.
My point is, you have a meaningful conversation because 100%. You have market knowledge.
Right.
So for those of you out there that are doing or want to do this, you have to know what the hell you're talking about.
And that takes time.
Because that's so when they choose an agent, they've got a million agents to choose from.
Right.
They're going to go with someone that they think knows their market, knows their neighborhood.
Right.
So you've got to learn the neighborhood, learn it very well.
And even here, like I grew up in Venice. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that I knew Sarasota. I mean, we used to spend a lot of time in Sarasota, had a lot of friends in Sarasota, but like there are definitely a lot of neighborhoods in Sarasota I don't know as well.
Yeah.
So I try to like, hey, look, if I'm going to be going down in this area and I don't know it, I'm looking up as much information.
You learn, you get very
quickly.
Yes.
Very quickly, better spin things up.
Because it has to be a useful conversation. When I used to,
they're going to know too.
Yeah, when I used to get a lot of web calls, and they would say, "Hey, I want a condo on Siesta Key. I want it on the beach side, and I like short-term rental." And I could be like, boom, 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 and they go, "That guy knows the market."
Right.
But if
without
my first
having to go on a computer.
For the first thing I say is, "Let me check MLS."
Right.
That doesn't work. You have to have some value.
Right.
You have to have some value.
People's attention spans are like, this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. What are these magical things? Mark?
So she's always giving me a hard time about wanting to get on video, and I'm like, I don't want to do video. I don't want to be out there.
I never wanted to do video.
I know.
I hate seeing myself on video.
Right?
I hate it.
Right?
I hate it.
So I was like, I was actually I was on a treadmill in Peru, and I was like, let's do a podcast, or let's do
treadmill in Peru.
Yeah, and I was like, let's do something. Let's get out there and video. So we're just gonna do this, what we're doing right now.
That's awesome.
And I would like to just bring in people that I know from the industry, and have conversations.
Yeah.
And
educate the market.
Educate the market, educate the realtors, educate myself, and have some sort of platform to do that in. And then, we'll go out in the field and do what you guys do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, so
it's fun. I'm glad you're doing it because like I said from the onset, I think people know, like, and trust you. and
Well, they don't know me.
Well,
Yeah, right.
I post on social media, but I kind of
don't listen to him. People,
I try to fly under the radar a little bit.
People want to hear from you, and because you've done this a long time and not just sold, obviously sold for a long time, but you've been in the trenches on the broker side too, and so you've seen all the angles, and so that's why I think it's important that people hear from.
Well,
someone
that's the plan. So that's what this is all for.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
that's what we're.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Where can they find your podcast?
Well,
how do they find it?
We're not set up yet. We'll probably start. We'll probably start this week.
And then do it on. You're gonna drop it on YouTube.
We're gonna mostly use it for video.
Sure.
And
okay.
I'm getting put it on Spotify. I don't know. So there's so much I don't know. Fortunately, I have an office manager. She's awesome. Camilla, she's like 23.
That's good. That's what you need.
That's what I need. Yes.
We try. By the way, we tried to do the podcast. It is very technical.
Where did you try to do it?
We didn't really try.
So we bought the equipment.
We did.
Came to the office. I'm like setting up this equipment, and then I'm like, okay, well, I figured out how to record. But then we recorded the first one just sound, and it was like terrible. I mean, it was so bad, and I was just like. And then we tried to mess with it, and finally I was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, I know.
We got to go do business.
It's a lot, yeah.
Like, you really have to know what you're doing. If you can figure it out.
One of my agents, Jason Wood, is really good at this.
Then you're great.
He helps. Yeah. We've got help, because if I had to do it like all by myself, I'd be like,
It's not one man show. There's
and that's a good lesson for this business too. It's really hard to do everything on your own.
It is really hard.
If you want to run a high performing real estate business, you need help, correct?
Agreed.
Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And that's been a hard thing for me.
It is hard.
Because at what point do you make the jump where you're hiring people? Like Shayla and I have one of my clients has a really large company, and he's been like, when are you going to start hiring assistants? And I'm like, but I just need to get a couple more deals done and have the capital.
You say that for years, right?
See, and I tell him you need. It's the other way around, because
chicken and the egg.
It'll actually force you to be more productive and do the things that we.
Because you focus on what's the most important, is that's getting business and generating business and running a real estate business, and not paperwork. Because sometimes I like to just forget about everything and just do paperwork. But it's not the highest and best use of our time.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So I got a TC. That's the first start.
That's good.
And now I'm starting to put the capital together. Like I'm putting money aside on every deal now. And I sort of said to Shayla, like, I'm not going to be ready until I know I've got a year's worth of money. But that's only a couple deals away. Yeah. Like we're only a few deals away from having that money and being able to say, okay, we're going to. And I think that what we're probably going to do is hire one person that we split, and then
we'll keep that person really busy.
and then keep that person really busy, and then eventually add a person, and then kind of grow from there.
So you guys have I know your stuff. I watch your stuff. So you guys are really busy, and you attribute that to just working your ass off.
Yes.
And door knocking.
Door knocking, yes. I mean, I'd certainly work leads from growing up here, and having family.
Sphere of influence.
Sphere of influence, but I don't do. What's funny is that like the sphere of influence, most of my deals I do off that are small.
Okay.
Most of them are previous clients referring friends and family, and then just continuing to stay in touch with people that way, and then desk and floor and doing door knocking, and then kind of networking through that.
It's all the things.
Everything. Do you think the market's going to get tougher or easier?
I think that
for realtors,
for realtors, tougher. Yeah.
I think that the statistic everybody always hears is 85% of new agents will be out of the business in a year.
5 years.
I think they're going to be, those numbers are going to be, I mean, we have 9,000 or close to 9,000 realtors in Sarasota.
Yeah.
But of those, there's probably 500 that are actually transacting a lot of property. The rest of them are that, they do 2 or 3 deals a year, or they're making just enough money to get by, kind of a thing. I think that you're going to see a lot more washout.
What do you think?
I've said that we'll see washout, and then it hasn't washed out.
Right.
The board dues are coming due.
There's going to be some washout. I think this is a hard business, no matter what market we're in. You know what I mean? Even when we were in the FOMO market, like fear of missing out, I got to buy something. I'm willing to pay $50,000 more.
Right.
Even then, it was hard because you'd show a bunch of houses and then you still wouldn't get it because you're competing with 30 other guys.
Right.
So even when the dynamics of the market were different, when the buyers they want to buy. it was still hard to put deals together.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling my buyers at that time, if they're in the $1 million to $1.5 million price point, if you're not ready to pay 100 to 150 over asking list price, this isn't your time to buy.
So you missed out on a lot of properties. So my point is that realtor, even though the dynamics were easier in terms of selling property, it was still hard to, it was still difficult.
100%.
There's always a challenge in the market. I think you just have to, I hate to say it, put your head down and work very, very, very hard.
I would say this: if you were thinking of getting into the business, now would actually probably be the best time, because it sets
the worst time. Yeah.
It sets the
that's
tone
very clever. Yeah.
For all of the things that you need to do, the waking up early, the going to bed late, the doing what you need to do, making your calls, doing the open houses, whatever it is that you gravitate toward, that you like and enjoy, I think it'll show to the public. And I think life is too short. I always say this, like, not to enjoy what you do. And my dad always said growing up, like, I love what I do, and if you love what you do, you'll never work. And I always thought he was crazy when you're a kid.
But if you're not passionate about this, you're not going to do it.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work. If you're not super and yes, I mean, everybody gets in because they see the money that can be made, and I get that. And then there's nothing, I certainly don't disparage anybody for wanting to make a lot of money, but if you're watching TV and you're watching, Selling Sunset, you don't make three phone calls and go sell a $25 million home. That's not how it works. And so you have to put the hours in. You have to grind. I mean, you have to be willing to call people. You have to be willing to deal with people that, quite frankly, sometimes you're going to deal with people you don't like. I mean, you have to be willing to do all of it. And if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to do it.
I mean, we all get up early. I would say that too. Like we get up early and we start messaging each other and stuff like that. Go work out, go to the gym and stuff. I think when you go do those things, those are part of your routines. Those are healthy things. And
isn't it kind of cool that you can have camaraderie, even though you're not at the same brokerage?
Oh, 100%.
And you learn from each other, you motivate from each other. You have a circle that you can, you and I text, and we text with other people, and we share war stories and stuff like that. So it's cool to have that network.
100%. And I think it's important also to know, like, am I in the wrong here? Like, did I do something wrong? It's good to have other people that you can reach out to and be like, hey, I'm going through this like really crazy situation. Is it me, or is it like, or am I approaching this wrong, or what? I think that's important. I think it's really important.
Is our season going to be busy?
I think so.
We are already.
Well, what do you think?
We're really ramping up.
I feel like.
The only thing that concerns me is every time there's an election, we hear, especially from the vacation home buyers.
Right.
Let's just see what happens with the election. You hear it, you've heard it.
Yeah,
I've heard it.
But all of a sudden, I mean, like in the last couple of years, and granted, I'm brand new, but I just remember like I started in like May, and I remember like May, June, July, August, just nothing. Like I'm brand new, just nothing happening. We were busy this summer and had deals we were working on, and I closed one last week. I put another one under contract on Friday. We've got 4, 5, 6 that are getting ready to list or they're coming. And in the network, like people that we've worked with are getting ready to do larger deals. So I just had this better feeling going into this season. Like we have a lot pending coming in the season right now that's ready to come through. And some of them are larger deals that I just never, granted, I'm newer to the business, but like I remember 2 years ago was my second year. I'm going into my second year and still having like nothing coming out of summer, like just nothing going on.
If you think about it though, there are kind of two groups of buyers out there. They're the ones that are going to buy when everything's great, the fear of missing out market. And then there's the ones that are going to buy only when things are like not so great, right? So you have there's more than two groups, but those two groups, maybe this group will come out and be more active, so.
There's always deals though, right?
There are always transactions.
Right.
It's just trying to get them. Sometimes they're easier to get than, sometimes they're hard to get. So,
what's the Warren Buffett saying? Be fearful when everyone
people's
else
greedy.
is greedy and greedy when others are fearful.
Correct.
What we all do know, and we'll kind of leave it at this, is that we know and trust and understand real estate, and that's where our expertise lies, and that's what we stick to. We don't claim to work outside of markets we don't understand and know, but I know long-term real estate is a safe and awesome asset for many, many reasons.
True.
And that's why we've been in. Fun fact, by the way, I actually worked here at Dwell at one point.
Okay.
So, fun story.
I knew that was going to come up.
It was Dwell, now it's Corcoran Dwellings.
Yeah,
Okay.
Look Mark up. Mark is a great resource. So, feel free to reach out to Mark. How do people get a hold of you? Well, how do people see your website?
Which one? We have several.
Oh,
so
look
no.
at you.
I mean,
no.
Oh.
I barely have one.
Okay.
Dwellingwell.com, SarasotaFloridaRealEstate.com, StPetersburgRealEstate.com. Our YouTube channel is going to get much busier thanks to pressure from my friends.
Yeah. There we go. Yep.
Yeah. So
I think I've already subscribed to your YouTube.
there's not much to subscribe
Well,
to.
you know what?
Yeah.
Like everything, we're gonna come up with a schedule.
You got to start. You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere
Yep.
and stick to it.
Yep.
I always say,
We're two videos a week. We do 2 videos a week. We really are. Yeah.
yeah, but I say like, if you're gonna just do one video or one podcast, don't even do
waste your
that.
time.
Oh, forget it.
because
Yeah.
I read the people generally do 7 podcasts and then they're done.
Oh, they're nuts.
Yeah.
And it will
that's
never.
not us.
That's a total
No.
waste of
Why?
your time. The
That's
equipment,
almost
the
everything
money.
though. It's like direct mail. I did 3 direct mails. I didn't get anything.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
we talk about that all the time
We
because
do.
I've been
We
talking
do.
about starting direct mail, and I did it. I did exactly that. I was brand new.
Mm.
I spent up like $1,000, $1,500 doing a couple direct
I
mails.
didn't get
I
any
didn't get anything.
listings.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to continue
Yeah,
this.
screw
This is
this.
terrible.
Yeah.
it's like I tell him,
And she's like, I make $30,000 a year, but I spend about 20. And she's like, but it's turnkey. Like
Yeah.
I pay the money, it just
Yeah.
goes out.
Yeah.
at some point it comes back to you.
Yeah.
Right.
In
Yeah.
a multitude of ways, and you're educating, you're branding yourself, and like I said to you on that exact topic, you're gonna start. It's gonna be great, but don't do it if you're not gonna.
Right.
One thing is for sure: if you do nothing, you will get
Nothing.
nothing.
That's
I mean-
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's
Let's end it
any
like that.
career.
Yeah. Right.
So this was actually fun. I actually like having these conversations.
Yeah.
We should do this again.
You're